A new world is right around the corner, and before we get there, Konami has done a bit of a fix-up to make the game a bit more fun for speed duel players, since it's not fair for only the rush players to be getting something this year. Duel Links is in a really healthy place right now, with only a few unfair things needing to be taken down a peg to smooth things out even more. Hey bro, when Duel Links has a problem, Duel Links solves it. Based on the comments we've seen, the Star Seraph skill has gotten a lot of people enjoying the deck, and a lot of people angry at the deck. And this ban list addresses this in two ways that does make the deck more fair, but at the same time maintains its playability. The last few times they made a busted skill for a deck, they just murdered the shit out of it on a ban list just to buff it up later on in the year. So it's great to see that they figured out how to make something fair without folding the hell out of it. The first hit is to the skill. It's pretty tame because the skill is going to work exactly the same as before, with the only difference being that the effect that lets you play through more interruption if the opponent has a card can only be used once, taking away some of this deck's insane grind game, since this deck can clearly grind well enough already without that. It used to be that this deck just crushed people if it could get into a grind game, but it's a much more winnable matchup now just from this nerf. To take it a step further, they also limited stick to 3, so you're either going to play less of the best card in your deck, or you got to forget about playing limit 3 back row. Either way, you aren't going to be playing 3 limit 3 back row, as this guy is super important for your game plan. The deck is definitely still going to be a meta threat, but taking it down a peg like this makes the game a bit more balanced. The Revolution to Fleur skill gave birth to and revived a whole bunch of different strategies, and it lets the community be really creative. Because of that, it also allows the community to find the most broken strategies to abuse using the skill. The first toxic ass strategy this ban list hits is the Bishbalkin strategy, clogging up the opponent's whole field while also giving you a bunch of link fodder. They tried to hit this strategy in the past by limiting the Bish to 1, but using Puzzlemino, people have been able to make it a lot easier. So in order to make that harder, they limited the Puzzlemino to 1 so it can't be played in the same deck as the Bish. So that strategy is just fully dead unless the community can cook up another way to pull it off that convinces Konami to just ban this dude. On the other end of the revolution is the Beatrice strategies that, to be fair, did become less popular when the Bishbalkin version was created, but with that version dead, the return to Beatrice is clear, and in order to prevent the Fleur decks from using both Beatrice and other limit 1 cards, they put Beatrice to 1. This means they can't use it with the limit 1 extra deck cards the deck was able to make. It also means that any deck with limit 3 cards that wanted to use Beatrice now gets to play more limit 3 cards, like the limit 3 back row and the Orchist cards. I think most importantly, being limited to 1 means that you can't use her to send Phantom Knight and search for the Phantom Knight's rank up magic to get a 2 negate Requiem and Onomats, since that deck is definitely a sleeper and is definitely able to put up some insane boards if they're allowed to cook. Since Onomats can't really take as strong of an advantage of Beatrice anymore, they also unlimited Gaga Revenge. So the last nerf we got is for Ghostricks. I know guys, finally, we've all been complaining about how Ghostricks have been ruining the ladder, making the game unbearable, and Konami's finally addressing it. All jokes aside, this drop is kinda like a Book of Eclipse for Ghostricks, and Ghostricks do have pretty good synergy with Book of Eclipse, so limiting this chapter 3 prevents some potential problems for the upcoming Ghostrick support that we're gonna get. Yeah, Konami outright admitted that we're getting Ghostrick support by limiting this card to 3, not figuratively either. Look, they actually said it. I for one am very happy to hear that we're getting some Halloween support in October. Everything else on this ban list makes this game more fun for decks that have been needing some support. First of all, the big cock is off of the ban list at last. Cocytus is now limited to 1 instead of being banned, meaning that instead of invoked players not being allowed to play this, they will instead be given the agency to actively ignore this card since it's not even good anymore anyway. They also unhit Transmodify, so that's pretty cool for the deck builders out there. This one's been hit so long I don't even remember what it was hit for. Probably Infernity. The Buster Blader skill was trash on release, because the skill locked the Buster Blader archetype from doing their own game plan by locking you out of summoning the Buster Dragon. Now the deck will be able to summon Buster Dragon, and I'm happy for them, but at the same time, I'm not really enthusiastic about getting Buster locked, to keep it a buck with you. The Agent nerfs a few months ago kinda overdid it, so they are saying sorry to the Agent players by giving back some of their consistency. They're allowed to shuffle back the Bricky Ball again, and your extra deck is now allowed to have multiples. It's honestly weird that you weren't allowed to play multiples before, but yeah. Speedroids was changed to literally the original form of the skill, so Speedroids is now actually more powerful than it's ever been, with the skill allowing it to play through interruptions more smoothly with Den Daiko Do. And they got a new synchro recently too. You know all those type specific versions of level 5 reload? They got a buff as well. They only worked if you use them at the start of the main phase, but they were buffed to let you use them at any time during your main phase, so they'll be even more versatile for the deck types that use level 5s of those types. For years, Darklords have been in prison for their crimes against the Duel Links community. That deck was so damn damn toxic at the time. But let's put our feelings aside for a second and contextualize what the deck was doing. A bit of survival and a monster negate. Bro, that sounds like it wouldn't even be rogue these days. It being on the ban list at this point didn't really make any sense, so they are beginning to bring things back here. Ixchel's still going to be at 1, however, the Contact and Sanctified both being at limit 2 meant that you could only play one of each, but both are limited to 3 now, so you could play 2 copies of one and 1 copy of the other. It's only a slight buff, but I think they might have been waiting until they were about to drop their selection box Link Monster into a regular box to unhit these cards as a promotion for that box. So hey, stay tuned to see what the next Speed Duel box is. I think it might be Darklord support. Weatherman isn't going to be happy about this, but Altergeist got a buff. When they came to the game, personal spoofing was at 1, just in case it would be too powerful, and it wasn't too powerful. Then they limited it to 2, in case that would still be too powerful, and then it wasn't. Now they finally see the deck wouldn't be too broken if it had 3 copies of spoofing, so you can go to the card trader and get your 3rd, and your Altergeist deck will be more consistent than ever. Before you ask though, no, there aren't any good limit 2 traps for the deck to use. Stick to the good ones we've been using. It's about damn time that we as a community forgive Odd Eyes for being one of the best decks in the game for a decently long period of time. I personally don't think being the best deck in the game is a crime, but I do think that nerfing a deck to shake things up a bit is alright, as long as the deck is brought back at some point. And Odd Eyes finally has back its consistency and back row removal. Dragon Pit and Pen Call are back, and it's just so refreshing that you can build the deck again. But with Beatrice being limited to 1, there's no chance that the deck's going to be able to take advantage of it, because the skill requires you play the Raging as your limit 1 to be able to activate. The Odd Eyes skill is still nerfed, and that's okay. It's honestly still a really damn good skill. They just took it from way too insane to just regular insane, and now it can be taken advantage of again with the unlimits for consistency, and we can now play other limit 3 cards again too. There was no good reason for Phantasm Spiral to be nerfed on release. Honestly, this deck wasn't gonna be good enough without the nerfs, and I don't think it's gonna be good now that the field spell is free, because one of their traps is still limited to 1. Phantom Knights was hit a bit too hard on the ban list, and it only really got to live for 1 format, and it wasn't even really the main problem that format, so the very least Konami could do was unlimit Torn Scale. But that doesn't really forgive them for the shittiness of the skill only letting you use 1 Xyz monster effect during the opponent's turn, while also not letting you use Requiem to its fullest potential. Shiranui Spirit Master is now unlimited, meaning that you can still play Beatrice if you want to. I know not everybody is even playing Beatrice anymore, but the option is still there, and importantly, you can play multiple Spirit Master since it is really damn good as a top deck, so the deck's definitely got a better grind game, closer to its glory days. And the fact that Beatrice isn't limited to 3 anymore as well also means that if you do choose to play it, you can still play the 3 Solitaire. Finally, after all this time, Mekk-Knights are at full consistency, with 3 Purple Nightfall, 3 Memory, and of course being able to play any amount of Blue Sky. The deck is just as consistent as it was at full power, and in the meantime a bunch of engines have come out that are splashable alongside this archetype. This deck might really be a problem if it were to see play again, because this deck can fairly easily set up a skill drain like effect. But what helps this out in terms of balancing is that there are a lot more board breakers and interruptions in the game that can deal with this that people are playing, so this game plan isn't as foolproof as it used to be. However, if you are a Mekk-Knight enjoyer, you can finally enjoy it without bricking so much. This ban list is honestly stacked, bro, and it's my favorite kind of ban list too. I'm sure a bunch of creators are going to be talking about how this didn't kill enough decks, but let's be honest, man, it's a healthy format right now. We don't gotta be killing decks just because they're the best. We should only kill toxic strategies, and this ban list killed toxic strategies while uplifting a bunch of other strategies that aren't so toxic anymore. I think Konami did a good job with this ban list, and they better come out with that Ghostrick support before the 6K Halloween special, or I'm gonna be tilted. But that's about it, so yeah.
Hey, why they gotta hate on me? I done got me 250,000 views and they still saying they low key. They ain't wanna come work with the kid, but I'm flexing with Zay on beats. How they ask for a spot at the gym, but they leave all the weight on me. I don't ask them to wait on me. They would ask where they gon' be with a song if they wanted the Weatherman. I ain't ask them to pay no fees. She was homeless and needed a spot. I ain't ask her to pay no lease. I ain't ask her to say no please. I ain't ask her to make no cheese. Scream fake, but it ain't on me. Got clean so it ain't no streets. Why green if it ain't no keeps? Brought cream so it ain't no beef. My team say it ain't no chief. My demon they hang on me. They seemingly ain't no peace. I seen him, he ain't no beast.